You call me Mr. Perfect.
Hey, Curt Hennig fans. Hello and welcome to another episode of Curt Hennig Was the Best. Change My Mind. I'm your host, Steph. We're on episode 57, guys. 57. Today on our perfect podcast, we are going to watch along to the match with Chris Jericho that was on Monday Nitro. It was December 29th. I'm very excited to do this one, though um, I'm going to be very critical of Chris Jericho because he really messed up and he could have hurt Curt Hennig very badly. But of course, we're also going to do 4 more promos. We're going to do a couple of vignettes, and then I think there might be a promo in there, 1 or 2. But I like the one that's coming up because it's the golf one. So this is going to be a lot of fun. But before we start, if you'd like to become a member, excuse me, hold off on Patreon, guys. I'm gonna see what Kofi is all about first. Just see if we can do some stuff with that, because Patreon is being a little weird. So also, if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube and Rumble channels, you can. The link is in the description field below this video. If you would like to become, like I said, a Patreon supporter, just hold off on that until I check out Kofi. And then also, if you do want to give to the show, down in the description is my Cashapp. You can definitely give any amount of money you would like there. And of course, I will definitely give you any kind of perks that you have paid for. So $1, $5, $10. I think the $5 you get a blooper reel. You get to ask me a question, that kind of thing. So I'm going to do the same thing as Patreon, but hold off on becoming a Patreon supporter so that I can check Kofi out. Okay. I also like to give thanks to my one Patreon supporter, which is Charlie Brown Politics. Thank you so much, Charlie Brown, for being that constant supporter. If you too, like I said, I will get the Kofi, so that is coming soon. But if you would like to donate to the show, my Cash App is in the description field. Okay, let's get right to it. So, also, I have about 33 Rumble people. So if you want to become a Rumble follower, link is in the description field. And of course, you can check out all the other videos I've done. Plus, Pro Wrestling Talk is also available on my Rumble channels. And you actually get a bonus when you're on Rumble. You actually get to see my pretty face. And I also have like a theme song, like an outro. That country song is AI generated, so I like it a lot. It still makes me cry about Curt Hennig, and then of course the outro for Pro Wrestling Talk is like a country song about pro wrestling, which I thought was pretty cool. So again, we're gonna jump right into this. It is the golf vignette, which is one of my favorites. I love the golf vignette. Only because I think that Curt looks amazing in this one. And I've seen the blooper for this one. He like kind of misses. So like the blooper is like the ball goes out around the little golf hole. Um, I'm just like, oh, so close, yet so far. Um, so hang on 1 second here. Okay. So, here we go. Make sure that's up. That is up.
Has done everything in his life absolutely perfect, without a flaw, without a blemish. From top to bottom, everything that I have ever done has been absolutely perfect. And today, we're taking the simple game of golf. And to the common man, maybe a frustrating game, but not to Mr. Perfect, a man with a sign of perfection that hangs over him, a man that can do anything that he puts his mind to and do it absolutely perfect. Well, the hardest part of the game is the putt. And today, I am going to sink a 40-foot putt to show you people that I am perfect in every way and that I am.
Yes, it was absolutely perfect. I can't say enough about this. Um, uh, I wasn't good at golf, guys. I'll admit it. That I mean, I got lucky one time in like when we played golf in gym or whatever, but I can't say that I'm a great golf player. Um, I wasn't bad at mini golf. I got a couple of hole in ones a couple times, but I didn't really play golf. Not that I wouldn't, like I would with my man or whatever, but yeah, I just wasn't good. But like I said, I like the blooper where the ball goes out around and it's like, oh, you missed. Uh, well, it like just went out around. It's like it like literally goes, oh, and you're like, oh, jeez. Good thing you got another take for that, right? Okay, so so let me just say a little spiel about this. So this is one of his vignettes that was done in 88. Um like 88, 89, I would say 88. But the golfing one, like I said, I always thought he looked fabulous. um so I'd be like I wouldn't be able to play golf anyway cuz I'd be staring at him. I'd be like, "Oh, okay." Because I mean, he's an amazing wrestler, no doubt, and he's very good looking too. So, I think this vignette was just as good as the bowling one because, like I said, I like it how the car goes by and it like doesn't distract him. um, but I mean, golf. Kurt played golf all the time. Like he says this in many interviews that he loved playing golf. That was his thing. Um, oh man, sorry. Um, he just loved playing golf. I mean, that was his thing. So, I think that he was in his element there, because he was always good. I mean, he was perfect, right? So, but this vignette was like right after he became Mr. Perfect. Him and Vince had gone into a room and were just spitballing ideas. And of course, I think it was Pat Patterson that said, it sounds like you're perfect. And so Vince is like, you're Mr. Perfect. So that it fit Kurt very well because he was good at all that stuff. So he was, a great athlete. Plus, he could bowl. Maybe not the perfect game, but pretty darn close. And I do like the Regis and Kathy Lee when he goes on there with Lanny. And he does a card trick, and I'm just like, ooh. I love stage magic and all that stuff. So I'd be like, wow, that was awesome. Can you do that again? um Okay, so this one, actually, it's funny that this comes up. So in 1993, let me share my screen first. So in 1993, of course, there will be, Kurt's babyface run in '93. This is March 20th, it says, so 1993. So this would be after, or no, it would be right before WrestleMania when it was supposed to be Kurt and Lex Luger. Of course, he was known as the narcissist, and then Brett and Razor Ramon, because they would just face each other at the Royal Rumble. Excuse me. They would, at the Royal Rumble, they would meet. And then, of course, these tag teams with Brett and Kurt. And actually, I can show the one interview with Brett and Kurt where literally, like, it's like a face to face, and Kurt's talking, or they're Mean Gene's talking about the narcissist, and Brett talks about the Bob Backlund, something like that. But like you can see the look on Kurt's face, something's up, something's not right. I feel bad for Kurt in that one, but I mean, he got to be with his friend because him and Brett were friends. Um, so I love this interview. Some of them are unique. For example, Kurt will say, Hitman, I find it hard to believe that we've teamed up, like, because they were always against each other, SummerSlam. Of course, they will meet. Oops, sorry. They will meet up at the King of the Ring, of course. And they'll have a great babyface versus babyface match in that, at King of the Ring. Excuse me. All right, so here we go.
Who would have ever thought, Hitman, that the excellence of execution, the World Wrestling Federation champion, and Mr. Perfect would be on the same team? But the reason that we are on the same team is because you, narcissist Lex Luger, and you, Razor Ramon, need to be put in your place. Luger, you walk through the World Wrestling Federation saying you're better than perfection, and Ramon,
No such
oozing
thing.
machismo. You two are going to find out what wrestling is really all about.
Here the narcissist is. Here's a guy that's got to look in the mirror to see how great he is. And Razor Ramon, haven't I seen you before somewhere? You're still talking and you're full of talk, but it's not going to save you when you step in the ring with the two best. The best that there is. The excellence of execution and Mr. Perfect are going to waste you two guys, and we are looking forward to it. Right, Mr. Perfect?
It's the perfect team.
The excellent team. It's perfect. Well, excellent too. It was perfect.
Okay. I like that one because they're arguing. It's perfect. No, it's excellent. It's perfect. It's excellent. I mean, same thing. Same thing. Yeah, I really like that one too. Because I like I said, this was 1993. So he would be in the middle of his babyface run. And maybe Curt didn't like being a babyface, but he was so good at it. Especially when you see the Portland matches we do when we get there to Portland. I'm thinking about maybe doing a couple because we have done the Dr. D and, of course, the Buddy Rose stuff. There's a couple there with Dynamite and the Assassin and, of course, the Rip Oliver. And then they're like against Buddy Rose and Curt and, Billy Jack. So some really great matches there that they had. And, of course, I mean, Curt looks great in Portland anyway. So yeah, like, for example, we could do maybe just the tag team because I think Buddy Rose and Curt become the tag team champs also in Portland, but I think they lose it right back to I think it's Dynamite and the Assassin. I have to double check. I have to look. He didn't really do I mean, he did a couple of singles by himself with Buddy Rose when they had Buddy Rose as a heel, but it was more, Curt was with Billy Jack or he was with his dad or and of course always did the 2 out of 3 falls. So the 2 out of 3 falls is like he's always done that. So all right. This one is from 1990. Now watch Curt's face here. He doesn't look happy. I think this is when Hogan axed his push. So this says May 12th. Okay. So May 12th, like I said, I think Hogan axed his push in 89 and 90 because he would actually face Hogan in 1990, but it was like Warrior and Hogan. So, and they would face Hogan after Hogan lost the belt to Warrior at WrestleMania 6. That was on a Saturday night's main event, and we can go over that too. I would also like to go over the match with Lanny and him versus Warrior and Hogan. The other thing I wanted to just quickly say, I caught some videos on YouTube that I just kind of want to go over because I was like, maybe I should make a note to myself that, guys, I've seen a couple of videos where people are reacting to how Curt sold, him jumping around and stuff. And people were saying, oh, it's so silly. No, it wasn't silly. That's how Curt was. Curt did that because he literally could sell and make the baby face look like $1 million. That was the point of being a heel, guys. I saw so many reactions where my blood was boiling over because I literally I was actually like flabbergasted at these people and how they're, oh, that's so silly. I can't believe he did that, you know. Um, Look, guys, nothing Curt did was ever silly. Curt was not that kind of a person. If he thought it was silly, he wouldn't have done it. He was trying to make the baby face look like $1,000,000. That's why he, you know, he would hit the turnbuckle and fly across the ring into the middle of it. He did that so that it looked like the heel was getting his comeuppance from the baby face. There's nothing silly about this. And it literally made me feel like people were sort of making fun of him. Look, guys, you can say whatever you want. I mean, everyone has their own opinions, and that's great that people are doing, you know, because there was like Curt selling compilation or whatever, and it was basically him just, you know, going into the turnbuckle. He would do that thing where he would hit the top and go all the way down the turnbuckles, and then they would smash his face into the corner. And that's just Curt. I mean, Curt would do that. It was to make the baby face look like $1,000,000. That's why we're here, guys. I mean, Curt did it all. He could do that. You know, it wasn't silly. It was meant to do that because he wanted to make that baby face look good so that the fans would cheer the baby face and cheer him. Like I said, he's getting those comeuppance, you know. That's why people paid for tickets. That's why he made Hogan look good. He made Warrior look good, even though Warrior couldn't wrestle. He made Piper look good. He made Kerry look good. Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado. Guys, he didn't do this to be silly, okay? This was everything to him. He was a showman through and through. He was a professional. When he was in that ring, it was all business. There's no silliness about this. And I'm sorry if I, you know, offend some people. That's just how I feel about it. You know, I don't like when people sit here and criticize a great showman because he did things to make the babyface look like $1,000,000. He he knew how the business was. I mean, he knew how it was going to go. He literally was second generation. He lived through it with his father. And then when he couldn't play football, he ended up going, excuse me, into wrestling. So I get where some people could think it's supposed to be silly. It's, you know, it's silliness. It's not. It wasn't. Because, like Curt said in many interviews, when he was in that ring, it was all business, no silliness, unless he was trying to make someone laugh that he was, you know, like Bret Hart or, sorry, my sinuses. Um, you know, if he was trying to rib someone, he would do a certain move or whatever to make that person laugh. Like, oh, you botched that up, you know, that kind of thing. But when it came to wrestling, guys, he was all business in that ring. There's nothing silly about his wrestling. Nothing. Those bumps that he took them because he was trying to make the babyface look better. And in fact, in his babyface run, he did that stuff to the heels. The heels would bounce around for him. So you see the give and take there. The give and take, come and go, give and take, same thing. But you guys have to realize Curt didn't do this to be silly. He didn't do any of that stuff. That was real selling, guys. That was selling. It had nothing to do with the fact that he was trying to be silly. He wasn't. He was over dramatizing it because it made the babyface look better. The babyface got cheered, and people would boo Curt because he was the ultimate heel. He actually made people boo him. And I'm sure that, you know, the underhandedness that he did was just to again get that heat, you know. It's called getting heat, guys. That's why you make the baby face look better so that when he's doing a comeback or what they call hulking up at one point, um, you know, and you know, the coming Curt will get his comeuppance by, you know, them hawking up, and then he's bouncing around for them and he's selling for them. See, I think a lot of people miss the fact that there is no selling in modern wrestling today. I just heard Jim Cornette talk about John Moxley and how Moxley didn't even sell a punch. Guy punched him and he didn't sell it. So, I mean, that would be like Curt would be, oh, he would be down on the ground and like, oh, like that. That's called selling, guys. That's Curt Hennig at his best. He knew how to sell. So I don't, like I said, and I've seen several of these YouTube videos where they're just like, wow, wow, that was really silly. Ha ha ha. They're laughing about it. This is not a laughing matter, guys. This was Curt's life. This was Curt's professional life. That's not funny. If you didn't believe that Curt was in that ring to give 110% every single match, even when he was hurt with Bret Hart, then you shouldn't have a show with wrestling. You shouldn't even talk about wrestling. That wasn't silly. That was called business. It was called business. It was called selling, and it was called keeping kayfabe. I can't tell you how disturbing that is that people, oh, that's so silly. Ha 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 ha. It's not funny. It's not funny. You're literally laughing at a professional, a man who knew the business. And if you think that's funny, don't have a show. This is why I have a show, because I respect people like that. I respect them for selling the way they do. Because today, they don't. They don't sell at all. That's ridiculous. You want to sit here and laugh at a professional, and yet you want to call the modern wrestlers or modern entertainers, they're not even entertaining. You want to call them today, you want to say that they're keeping kayfabe and they're selling? Their selling looks like shit. It looks bad. None of these wrestlers today, and I say wrestlers loosely, none of these people today could lace up Curt Hennig or Bret Hart's boots. You know why? Because they can't sell like they could. I see wrestlers not selling all the time. Or wrestlers. But hey, if AEW is where you're at, fine. I have no problems with that. Again, you can think what you want on AEW. I have my opinion. You have yours. But don't laugh at the showman who literally gave 110% and gave it their all for 30 plus years in a business that was grueling and tough and literally ended up with people self-deleting or deleting. Deleted. These people were not amateurs. These people knew what kayfabe was and they knew how to keep it. They knew how to wrestle. Do these jokers today know even how to do a freaking wrestling move? No, they just throw people into chairs and glass. They're bleeding every single freaking week. They put a plastic bag over someone's head. They stick a needle in your mouth. That's not wrestling, boys and girls. That's a sideshow. That's a circus performance. And it wasn't even that good. So don't laugh at the showman who actually knew how to wrestle and gave 110% every single goddamn day. In this business, if you do that, then you're not a real fan and you shouldn't have a wrestling show. Again, my opinion. I'm sorry that I get offended when people actually disrespect my hero. And yes, Curt's my hero. And if that bothers you, you're on the wrong show. People need heroes. People need heroes. Because there's a lot of people out there that just don't give a darn about you, about me, about any of us. So again, you can have your opinion. I don't care. You can, on your show, you can, put me down and whatever. That's why I have a show. That's why I'm on this show. To give respect, to give respect to one of the well, I think he's the greatest wrestler, but many people would say, you know, one of the greats. Excuse me. He was my hero, guys. I looked up to this man. He made me want to fight harder for in life. You know, I pushed my butt through school and I got a great education even though my mom was abusing me. I went to a tech school to learn how to work on computers. I got these shows because of Curt, because he came out on top of mostly everything he ever did. And because of him, I get up every morning, put my pants on, and go to work because of him. Because he taught me that you have to work and strive every day and push yourself. Remember SummerSlam 91. Curt's back was majorly out. It was hurting him. He was having back spasms. And yet he still pushed himself and got through that match and gave Bret Hart and those fans 110%. And he didn't have to do that. In fact, Bret talks about that. He said he called Curt and said, you know, you don't have to come to this match. And Curt said, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do have to come to this match. I'll be there. Because that's what kind of a man Curt was. He pushed himself so he could entertain those fans. And not only that, but he gave his friend a great match. A 5-star match. I don't care what you say. That match was beyond reproach. And how dare you sit there and laugh at Curt for him doing what he was supposed to do and keeping kayfabe and keeping that baby face looking like $1,000,000. Shame on you. I hope no one does that to your creative stuff. I hope no one, you know, when you're trying to do be all business in that whatever show, you're trying to be all business. I hope no one laughs at you. It wasn't funny. It's not funny to laugh at others who are literally giving themselves 110% every time they get in that ring or more. All right, guys, I'm not going to rant anymore, but I get so upset when literally I see, you know, YouTube videos where they're like, "Oh, ha ha ha, that's so funny." It's not funny. It's not funny, guys. How would you like if someone laughed at you like that? Well, you're trying to give 110% to entertain others and people just laugh at you. You know what those are called? Those are called comedians, which Curt was not. I mean, he was outside of the ring because he liked to rib people. Laugh at the ribs. Laugh at the ribs. I don't care about that. And there's some really great ones. We're coming. I want to do an ultimate rib too. Trying to get Kid Cabello back on for that. And Angel, of course, will be joining us. But how dare you laugh at someone who's literally trying to entertain other people when it wasn't funny? And it was his life. Wrestling was his life. Curt said it in an interview. So if that's what entertains you, or if you find that funny, you weren't a true wrestling fan. Because nothing like that was funny. Yes, Curt could have hurt himself in every time he jumped around. But again, that baby face looked great, didn't he? He or she. Okay. That's my rant for the week. So like I said, this next one is literally in 1990. Like I said, I think this is when I'm sorry, guys. My sinuses are really getting to me. So I think this was in, I mean, look at Curt's eyes. You can just tell by his eyes that he's not a happy camper. I mean, I wouldn't be either if someone who let's just say it, Hogan was all for Hogan. Terry was always about Terry. It was never about the other guy. Even though Curt did exactly what he was supposed to do and make Terry look great, because Curt was a heel and Terry was a babyface. Um, I just find it disgusting that Terry would say that Curt wasn't in his league. No, Curt was beyond your league, Hogan. Curt was beyond your league. He knew the business. You didn't. You only cared about Terry. What was good for Terry? You did it to Vern, you did it to Vince, and you did it to Eric Bischoff. You screwed over every promoter you've ever had, Hogan. And it started with Vern Gagne. Now, Vern, like I said, has his own faults. But Hogan was always about Hogan. And there was nothing separate. I watched the first episode of Vince McMahon, the documentary. We will talk about that. It would be the end of this September, so the 28th. So if you want to stop this, make sure you come back, guys. Stop this and then go and watch that. I have a few things to say about it, especially because they left some things out that I thought they should have talked about. But if you watch that first episode, Hogan was like all about Hogan. When he said, excuse me, I'm sorry. When he said that Vince called him to come up to the WWF, what they didn't tell you is that he screwed Vern Gagne. The story is that Vern was going to make Hogan champion. According to Greg Gagne, according to Greg Gagne, Vern Gagne didn't speak up about it because he was afraid that it would get leaked to the dirt sheets. But he had planned once Hogan came back from Japan to make Hogan champion. And what happened? Hogan went home. They sold out arenas. They sold out Minneapolis and surrounding cities. Hogan and Andre. It was supposed to be Hogan and Andre. And Hogan was going to be the new champion. What happened? Hogan sent a telegram. He didn't even have the balls to go face to face with Vern Gagne and say, sorry, Vern, Vince made me a better offer. He sent him a freaking telegram. Hogan was always all about Hogan and what benefited Hulk Hogan. Well, guess what, Hogan? If you had done a feud with Curt, you would have made more money, put more butts in seats, and it would have been spectacular. But you, in your infinite wisdom, decided that somehow, in your stupidity, that Curt wasn't in your league. Curt was more than a man than you'll ever be, Hogan. Curt is a man, and he's a better man. He's always been a better man. I'm sorry, guys. I go off on these tangents because it makes me upset that literally Hogan's sitting there and acting like he's the tough man. He's the coup de grace. Well, if I remember correctly, in 92 and 93, Hogan wasn't selling. He wasn't putting in asses in seats. And he ended up leaving and screwing Vince McMahon, surprisingly, and going to WCW anyway. What goes around comes around, right, Vince? I don't remember Curt doing that. Well, not in 93. But then again, in 96, Curt had already talked to Eric Bischoff by the time that Vince, and besides, Eric Bischoff had already guaranteed big money to Curt, who could actually wrestle. I don't know if Vince wanted him to wrestle for him anymore. Shocker. There's a lot of underhandedness that went on. Trust me, guys. All right. So this is the promo from, it says May 12, 1990. I was 4 years old. I would just turn 4 in April. So I would not see Curt wrestle until SummerSlam 1990 when he literally brought the house down with Kerry Von Erich. But when I saw that match, I was like, whoa. And then, of course, I knew Mr. Perfect the whole time, and I was like, wow, he can really wrestle. Like, I literally thought when I saw Curt's match with Kerry, I thought wrestling was real. I thought, oh my gosh, he got hurt because he's supposed to have hit his head on the post, but he put his hand down. You can see that. But it wasn't. But again, I was only 4, so I thought it was real. Curt made it look real. I thought it was. And I thought, shame on Kerry. I think that's what I told my dad. I'm like, shame on that guy. That other guy got hurt. He hit his head on the post. So immediately I fell in love with Curt's wrestling because, of the Kerry match that he had at SummerSlam 1990 with Kerry Von Erich. You're talking about 2 second generation superstars who literally brought the house down. I thought, even though technically I'm going to give props to Rick Rude because he deserves it. Excuse me. The main event was Rick Rude and the Ultimate Warrior in a steel cage. And even though I think Rude should have won, not because I like Curt, right? No, not because I like Curt, just because I think Rick actually carried most of that match. Warrior didn't know how to wrestle. That's why Curt made him look good. Because he was trying to hide the fact that the Warrior could not perform. He couldn't wrestle. Not to mention he was blown up in 2 seconds? He was I mean, come on. Rick Rude's probably like, what the heck is wrong with this fool? I think Rick Rude should have won. I also like the fact that it was in Philly, so he actually mentioned the Rocky Balboa thing. I think that would have been cool. Actually, instead of Hogan, wouldn't it be kind of awesome if Rick Rude was in Rocky 3? I'm just asking. If he was Thunder Lips and he comes out like this and walks to the ring, I'd be like, oh, I'm not gonna mess with that guy. But I'm serious. Instead of Hogan, I guess they were looking for a tall guy, but I mean, Rick was tall, wasn't he? 6 something, 6'3", 6'4", something like that. I don't know if I would call Rick Rude Thunder Lips or want to kiss Rick Rude. No offense, Rick. Sorry, Rick, you're not my type. Okay. I don't really have a type. Why did I say that? I don't even have a type. But I know I wouldn't kiss Rick Rude. No offense, Rick. No offense needed here. Just sorry. I can't see it. Okay. All right, here we go. Put this off long enough. Here we go.
Throughout the history in the World Wrestling Federation, there's been a lot of great wrestlers that came down the line. Maybe 1 every 10 years. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Perhaps you're one of them amazing things that only happens once every 10 years. But what you're looking at in Mr. Perfect Beefcake is a man that comes along only once in a lifetime. And Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I've got a mind on me that never forgets. It's perfect as well. And I never forgetting you, Beefcake. I know everybody out there wants to see the perfect golden locks fall to the mat and be in the hands of Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Not me.
Well, Beefcake, you remember one thing. I'm the greatest athlete. I'm the greatest wrestler. I'm Mr. Perfect.
Yes. Sorry. Stop. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry, let me go back because I accidentally hit the wrong button. Of course, they always do that to me. I hate that. Okay. So this is another vignette. Okay. So a couple of things about that. At WrestleMania 6, he would face Brutus, and I believe Brutus was the one who ended his perfect streak or his perfect record or whatever. Yeah, his face says it all. He was probably not happy to the fact that Hogan had axed his push. Uh, don't feel bad because a Warrior obviously axed Rick Rude's. Um, I would have loved to have seen Rick Rude have the belt at least for a little while, and then he could have given it back to Hogan or given it back instead of Slaughter. If we had had Rick Rude, as that top heel, and then of course Curt would come into the IC belt, and then of course always, they could always say that he was the ultimate heel. I mean, wouldn't that have been awesome? Instead of seeing Hogan and Warrior, people who couldn't really cut the mustard, instead you had Rick Rude and Curt Hennig as top heels. Instead of that, you still had the Macho Man, but he was kind of, doing the angle with Dusty. By 1990, of course, that whole prize jewel or something was kind of like a ha ha ha. We have Elizabeth. Um, I mean, when it comes to, I don't mind if they had Slaughter. That's fine. But no offense to Bob, I just think that Rick would have been that ultimate heel. I mean, if he had stayed after, obviously, if Rick had in that steel cage, if he had won the belt and actually stayed in the WWF, um, like I don't see why he couldn't have had a feud with Hogan, with Warrior, that kind. I mean, he already had one kind of with Warrior, but like with Hogan, can you imagine him and Hogan? Or Curt and Hogan having a bigger feud and Curt moving to that, top spot. That's what I mean, guys. Like a lot of the heels were pushed down back down the card. And honestly, that's not fair. I don't think that's fair. So, I mean, all I'm saying is that it just, it would have been a very interesting what if, you know, should have Rick Rude stayed and become champion. But I'm guessing he was already gonna leave, so Vince wasn't going to put the belt on him. But what if Rick Rude had stayed? Would we have like Hogan versus Rude at WrestleMania? Could there have been like a major? I mean, I'm sure Rick could think of a few things to get, he did it all the time. Maybe go after Hogan's wife, you know? Um, of course they wanted to exploit the war. Uh, I mean, that was what it was. And like I said, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have, uh, you know, uh, Slaughter in the mix, or of course there was also Randy Savage, but Randy Savage also hit the Ultimate Warrior in the head with a scepter because he broke Randy's arm. So why he was down, instead of having him go finally, I'm guessing his punishment was the Dusty Rhodes thing and kind of pushed him back down the card. Um, I don't think Savage ever recovered from that. I don't remember him doing that. I mean, he did have the belt again in 92 when it was him and Ric Flair, but I mean, there weren't a lot of heels back then, especially with, um, Andre was sort of out of it by then. DiBiase was still there, but he was still sort of hanging around with, like Dusty and stuff. Eventually Sapphire will go with Ted DiBiase. Um, and then you won't see Sapphire after that happens, so she kind of like disappears. Uh, so I mean, there was heels, but I mean, I would love to have seen Rick Rude with that belt. And then if he wants to leave for WCW, put it back on Hogan or put it back on Warrior or whatever. And then give Curt that opportunity. So Curt has the IC belt for a little while, and then push him up, push him up to, because he made Hogan look like $1,000,000. He made Warrior look like $1,000,000. And there's no reason why he couldn't move forward or up the card. I just think that because of Hogan, I think he ruined any chance for not only Rick Rude, but also, I mean, because if Rick was going to go for the belt, then he was in that upper echelon anyway. So he was in that upper card. He could go with the Warrior. He had done it all of 89. After after the superpose down, Rude was with the Warrior having a feud on and off for that whole entire 89 and then part of 90. So all I'm saying is there were heels there. I think Vince just didn't take advantage of it because of Hogan. I don't know why. I guess, Hogan is Hogan. And like I said, if it didn't benefit Hogan, just like if it didn't benefit Ric Flair, it didn't happen. Hogan just wanted to look out for Hogan. He didn't really care about any of the other guys in the business. And that's why Hogan screwed every promoter he's ever been with. Okay. So this is a vignette. Let me go back here. So this is a vignette. This is the football one. So, of course, I mean, he's a great passer. Curt did play football in high school and in college. So, sorry, my sinuses, guys. So I mean, he was an all-around great athlete. I don't really have to say anything, but this is in 92. This was done in 92. Again, Bruce Pritchard will talk about this, that when Curt turned babyface, he wanted to kind of reinvent the character because now he was a babyface. Now he was that all-American boy who, could play football, play baseball. He could do it all. And he wanted people to see that. So, of course, they have, someone from the Vikings. They had Wade Boggs, who was a great friend of Curt's, who had been on the Minnesota Twins and was on the Yankees, I think. But I mean, Curt and him were best friends. Like, not best friends, but they were good friends, him and Wade Boggs. In fact, next week, we're going to do the match with Bobby Eaton. With Curt and Bobby Eaton in 1998, and Wade Boggs is at ringside. So I think it'll be interesting that, I mean, Wade always came out to see him when he was in town. So anyway, but they were good friends. And I remember I was watching the documentary for Mr. Perfect, and Wade said, about the hunting accident that they had. Well, it wasn't really even a hunting accident. It's just Wade, I guess. So what happened was, I'll paraphrase. So Wade Boggs and Curt were going hunting, and there was like a barbed wire fence or something, and Wade didn't want to go around where Curt was like, let's just go around. And Wade's like, nah, it's okay. Well, he ended up flipping in this barbed wire and hurt himself really bad. And Curt goes, I guess I'm going to have to carry you. And literally, like, got him out of the barbed wire and carried him to a car so they could get to the hospital. And Wade breaks down and says, if he hadn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have survived. So you see, the great man that Curt is, he always helped his friends. And that made me tear up too when I was watching the documentary. It made me like tear up a lot because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I mean, you do anything for your friends, right? And Curt was no exception. So Wade never forgot that. He always was very apologetic. He was always he always held his friendship with Curt in high regards. So I think that's wonderful. Okay, so here we go. This is the football vignettes. Here we go.
Of the Minnesota Vikings. Some people say that Warren Moon is a great passer. Around these parts, they say that Fran Tarkenton is the greatest. I want to introduce you to the perfect passer.
That's right. I am the perfect passer, and I understand you're the perfect tight end. What's your favorite route?
That would be the tight end option route. You know the one.
Yeah.
Perfect. And that is one of my favorites. I have to tell you, absolutely one of my favorites, favorite vignettes. And there were many. Like I said, the hockey one is also good. I thought it was good. And like I said, this was during the 1992 reinvention of Curt because again, he turned babyface at Survivor Series or right before Survivor Series when Warrior and Davey Boy got popped for human growth hormones. So I think that there's a lot to be said for this. Um, I mean, it was just an all around great performance. Now, of course, you can't throw your own ball and catch your own catch. Um, but again, it comes back to the great athlete that Curt Hennig was, not to mention a great friend. The story I said with Wade Boggs. That is one that pulls at your heartstrings, even though I know Curt was an upstanding man. He was everything he should have been, a great friend, a great father, everything. um, and I can't tell you how great that was. So, um, it was pretty good. I thought that vignette was pretty good. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. I shall be back. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Okay, guys, and we're back. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to watch along to the match with Curt and Chris Jericho. Oh, I bet this is going to hang on a second. I'm sorry. Okay, it actually did stay in place. Okay, so for all those who are listening to the audio, we're on WCW Monday Nitro Season 3, Episode 52. This is December 29th, 1997. I was 11 years old at this time. I would be turning 12 in April of 1998. So this is the Chris Jericho match. Like I said, I wasn't much for Chris Jericho, and he does do a botch in here that could have gotten Curt very injured. It could have injured him. That's why I kind of don't like this one, but I mean, it is what it is. And it was right after Starrcade, so Curt had dropped the belt to Diamond Dallas Page, and his next match is on Nitro with freaking Chris Jericho. So, okay, and I'm starting at 1 hour. For those who are listening, I'm starting at 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 19 seconds. So go ahead and
Let's just see it. You can't read
you
about
can't
it.
see it till you see it.
Don't miss it.
Well, it was billed as the match of the century. Paybacks are hell. And yes, it was hell. An entire night of hell for the New World Order at Starrcade. And you have an opportunity to revisit that on the Encore presentation.
Is that the first time you've ever said that word on ITV?
I think so.
No, he says
Really,
Encore all the
Jericho?
time.
Oh, would you stop it?
You think you're in Kurt's
Tonight,
league?
Ladies and
You shouldn't even
gentlemen,
be in
the
that
midst
wrestling ring.
of a swirl of major controversy, Sting, the new world champion, will defend against Hollywood Hogan. That is coming up on this program a little bit later on here tonight live. And I know the fans, when they heard it, I mean, there were fans who literally ran from their seat, and I knew exactly what they were doing. They were calling their friends back home to ask them, did you hear what just happened?
Hey, Tony Schiavone, you want to talk about the match in the ring? I don't give a crap about Sting.
Everyone here as well as everyone watching Nitro.
Curt Hennig in there, the former United States champ, member of the New World Order, along with his partner in crime, Ravishing Rick Rude. And Chris Jericho, a newfound intensity that this young man has had, knocks the block right off of Curt Hennig.
I think he tripped there.
How about this?
Get down, Jericho.
Many things came about as of last night, but it was great as we saw the top of the program, what we witnessed last night, and what we heard last night.
As long as it's not me, dear.
is the unity by WCW
Someone's
wrestling
gonna get
in
hurt.
the stands.
Real bad.
Many of them paid an airline ticket to get there.
Like I
to be a
said,
part
as long
of
as
the
it's not
event
me,
last
my
night.
dear.
They wanted to see it. They wanted to be a part of wrestling history and be a part of the celebration. The same night that Curt Hennig lost the U.S. title to Diamond Dallas Page.
Who
That's
cares?
the first time in
Shush.
my life I've ever seen that many
Talk about the
wrestlers
ring. I don't
at
care about
one
Sting.
time, one place that bought
You want to
tickets
talk about
and
Sting?
sat
Wait till
and
he comes
watched a
out.
wrestling match.
That's
I'm
how
not-
important it was.
I
That's
know
why
that.
Tony Schiavone sucks.
And it was great to see an organization bond together like WCW did at Starrcade. And look how it paid off.
Exactly.
No
and I want
thanks.
to see them bond together again.
Oh,
tonight.
no thanks.
Sting,
Mm-mm.
our franchise, the franchise player, the world heavyweight champion on WCW Monday Nitro.
No,
will come out
thank
later
you.
on and defend against Hollywood Hogan. Maybe
I'm glad
we
I don't
can
have to
stop
feel
the crying
those.
here tonight, and the whining, and the bellyache.
No, you should talk, Tony Schiavone. You've been belly aching about Sting the whole time. Talk about Curt Hennig.
By Jericho into the corner, and Hennig. Great move by Curt Hennig. You know, here's a good move by Hennig, and I thought it was going to be a cover. We're not taking anything away from the athlete Curt Hennig. Great
Oh, yeah,
champion,
you are, because you don't
great
like him.
competitor.
Screw you,
And really,
Tony
you look up and
Schiavone.
down the roster of the NWO,
And now
chock
you're just a
full
bitch
of
boy
some of the
for
greatest
Tony
wrestlers
Khan.
ever in this world. But
He wouldn't know wrestling if it came
we are
up and bit him in the ass.
giddy about what happened last night, combined with what we're going to see here a little bit later on.
And another very important thing. Now,
See, this is what I'm talking about. Chris Jericho shouldn't even be in that ring. That could have
the
hurt
top
him.
1-2 greatest wrestlers in the world.
All right, I'm going to stop this for a second, guys. Did you guys see that? Jericho tried to do a lion salt, and he screwed it up. If Curt hadn't put his knees up, he could have gotten severely injured. That's what I'm talking about. Chris Jericho shouldn't even be in the stupid ring. That could have severely hurt Curt. He could have gotten severely injured. It's a good thing that Curt thought fast. That's the kind of stuff. I mean, what Dusty would tell you, don't do shit you can't do, Jericho. Don't do shit you can't do. All right, we'll start this again. I'm sorry.
The heart of Diamond Dallas Page and winning the U.S. title last night.
Oh, boy. Oh. A Hennig
Three.
suplex, 1, 2, 3.
Whiny crybaby who whined and cried about nothing. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there. Yeah, I don't like Chris Jericho. I never liked Chris Jericho. I thought he was stupid. I didn't think he should be in the ring. And like I said, when I stopped it, literally there was, Chris Jericho trying to do a lion salt, and he missed. He screwed it up. You could have hurt people. You could have hurt other wrestlers. And in my opinion, you shouldn't even be in wrestling. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to stop that. So just a few notes about this. Actually, I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and I will be back with you. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Okay, guys, and we're back. So I just want to, say a few words here. I didn't like the commentators, how they were kind of talking about Sting and Hogan. Again, guys, good commentators worry about the matches in the ring. Okay, they talk about matches in the ring. I don't care about Hogan and Sting, or otherwise we would be watching Hogan and Sting. So that's why I have a big problem with Tony Schiavone, because I call him Tony Khan's butt boy. I don't like Tony Schiavone, and I don't like Tony Khan. But I'm not the only one. I mean, Jim Cornette says, Tony Schiavone's a butt boy anyway. So I like the match. Curt carried most of it because Jericho shouldn't even be in a wrestling ring. And that tantrum, I think, was probably, I don't think it was a shoot. I think it was a work, because he wasn't really winning a lot of matches. But but the sheer the NWO won one. You know what, Tony Schiavone, go suck a dick. Just saying, go suck a dick. You obviously don't know what wrestling is, but yet you commentated because you just like to talk. How about that? That's why no one liked you. Bobby Heenan didn't like you. Nobody liked you. Because Tony Schiavone, like Hulk Hogan, was only for Hulk Hogan. Tony Schiavone was only for Tony Schiavone. How do you like them apples? You can go cry on your show and say, oh, nobody respects me. You're right. I don't respect someone who can't respect good wrestlers. Sting was not a good wrestler. He was having personal issues, for God's sakes. And he wasn't even ready for Starrcade. Eric Bischoff will tell you that story. Hogan looked at him and said, I don't think he's ready for Starrcade. He didn't look healthy at all. So you can take your little hero Sting and stick it up your ass. I get very passionate about it. What can I say? Okay. All right. So, I mean, like I said, Curt was great. Curt was perfect. No, he carried most of the match because, again, I don't like Chris Jericho. I don't like the way he wrestles. I don't think he's a good wrestler, and I don't think he should be in a wrestling ring. But that didn't stop Vince from making him champion. So, what can I say? Okay. Jericho was never a great wrestler or a good wrestler, in my opinion. He should have been a jobber at best. That's just what I thought about it. But I'm way past my time, guys. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. Just some shameless plugs. Next week, we will, you can't talk. We will be watching the Bobby Eaton match. I mean, this is a great match. And of course, Wade Boggs will be at ringside. So of course, Kurt's going to acknowledge that. And I think that's pretty awesome that they were friends and they can acknowledge that. So that will be coming up next week. Last week, you guys saw the Ultimate Rib collection. I'm thinking in October, we'll have an Ultimate Rib 2. Excuse me. So look out for that. I'm trying to get Hardlands Media on here, Kit Cabello. But of course, Angel will be with me. If I catch anybody else, I could probably just bring them on. We'll see. But I mean, we could have Snow on, Snow Himbo, or we could have Alex on, who's always on Pro Wrestling Talk. So now you guys are going to hear shameless plugs no matter where you are. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. My allergies, sinuses. But also, I just want to let everyone know, and I'll have a little theme there, a little segment on YouTube, that the outro song that's dedicated to Curt Hennig is AI generated. If you would like to make your own, it's down in the description field. I'll have that link for you. You can make your own. Hopefully it makes you cry as much as it makes me cry, because I couldn't have picked a better song to have. And like I said, I think if Curt heard this song, I think he would absolutely love it, because I mean, he loved country music. And I mean, I did too. I grew up with the 90s country. He grew up with like this 60s and 70s and 80s country. So I like some of the older ones. Like I like Patsy Cline. I like Loretta Lynn. I like Johnny Cash. I only knew one song from Hank Sr., and that was because of they remade it later. So it was Hey Good Looking. Because of like Jimmy Buffett and Alan Jackson and stuff, they remade that song. So I actually learned that song. I know one George Jones song, but that's because he's singing with Patty Loveless. And Willie Nelson, of course. I love Willie Nelson in Beer for My Horses with Toby Keith. So I mean, even the older country will, kind of mix and mingle with the newer country, or the 90s country, as I like to say it. Really, the only new country song I like, and it's because I'm thinking of using it for my wedding song, is because it's called Take My Name. I forgot the band's name. I'm sorry. but it doesn't even sound like a typical country song. Whereas the song I helped create with AI, it actually does sound. You can hear that steel guitar or the slide guitar in the back. So that's nice. And Curt said he loved Mark Chestnut and John Anderson. I loved Straight Tequila Night from John Anderson. I did like Seminole Win. I thought that was pretty cool. It's not one of my favorite John Andersons, but I do like Seminole Win. And well, I like Straight Tequila Night. Alan Jackson, I always liked It Must Be Love, which was a remake from Don Williams in the 70s, I believe. And then, of course, Living on Love. I love that Alan Jackson song. There was also a song that Alan Jackson did about Hank Sr. and visiting his how do I say this? His gravesite. He actually, it's sort of like almost like a ghost story in the song. Like he thinks that he sees the spirit of Hank Sr. So it's called Midnight in Montgomery. So if you guys want to look that up, I think that's a good one. And then, like I said, it's like a little bit of a ghost story in there. Pretty cool. So if you want to check those out, check that out. If you're also a country fan like me and Curt. Otherwise, it's been great, guys. And I'm so sorry. Like I said, I will be back next week. We will go ahead and watch along to another episode. We're going to go into 1998. So I'm going to show 4 more promos, of course. And then we're also going to watch along to Curt's match. And then eventually Bryan Adams will come out, who was Crush. He will come out and, try to convince Brett that he has a friend in the business. And then Bryan Adams will be NWO. And then Curt will come out, and that's when they start their feud up again. And they will head into Uncensored and have a match at Uncensored. So it will be Curt and Brett at Uncensored. So we will watch up to that match, and then we will, of course, watch that match. Okay? But thank you guys. Again, if you do want to support the show, my Cash App is in the description field. Like I said, hold off on the Patreon support until I can get Ko-fi. But also, if you would like to check out my other show, it's called Black Magic Talk. Links will be in the description field. Everything will be in the description field. So everybody have a wonderful week. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week and a wonderful day or month. Because we are coming up on October, guys. My favorite month because I love Halloween, and it is Samhain, of course. Samhain is like for Wiccans and pagans. It's kind of like the Day of the Dead that the Mexicans have. Mexico has it. So anyway, we're coming up on my favorite month. I have to get my Halloween decorations up. All right. So everyone have a wonderful week, and I'll see you back here again for another episode of Curt Hennig Was the Best. Change My Mind. And remember, everyone, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody. Okay, guys, this is where we're going to do some shameless plugs here. So the first shameless plug, if you could please go over to my other show, which is Black Magic Talk. I will put the links in all the description fields. If you could just kind of browse it, if you are not only a wrestling fan, but you like Wicca or paganism, and you'd like to learn more about it. We just did some recent episodes. So if you'd like to hop over there, just click the link in the description field. If you would like to give to the Black Magic Talk Patreon, that link will be in the description field. And again, if you would like to have a tarot reading on the show, you can DM me on X. My link for that X will be in the description field. If you would like to do one off the show, you can also just DM me and I will give you my rate. My co-host is Matt Collins. He can also give you a tarot reading on the show or off the show. If it's on the show, all you would have to do is become a Patreon supporter for $5 a month. You get all kinds of perks. And again, we can let you know when you can come on the show. And if you'd like to do it off the show, Matt can definitely give you his rating for doing tarot. The next shameless plug I would like to do is, of course, Pro Wrestling Talk will always be on Saturday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is scheduled to change, but Angel and I will let you know on the Wrestling X. So if you would like to DM us at any time, me and Angel, my link will be in the description field for my Wrestling X, and that is for Pro Wrestling Talk, and also for this podcast, Curt Hennig Was the Best, Changed My Mind. If you would like to give to the Patreon, I have for Curt Hennig Was the Best, Changed My Mind. Again, you can go and look in the description field. It should be there. I have $1, $3, $5, and $10. The other show is just $1, $5, and $10. Or no, I'm sorry, it's $3, $5, and $10. I think. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But if you could give, thank you in advance. If you'd like to ask any questions for Pro Wrestling or Black Magic Talk, you are free to direct message me on X, or Angel, my host for Pro Wrestling Talk. Again, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday, unless it is scheduled to change, but we will definitely let you know beforehand. So, of course, this show, I'm going to do a shameless plug for this show. Again, $1, $3, $5, and $10 you can contribute on Patreon. If you would like to give on Cashapp, I will take donations on Cashapp, but direct message me on X if you would like to do that, and I will give you my handle. So if you have any questions like about the show or any technical questions, you can always direct message me on my X, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. The next shameless plug I would like to do is for Hardlands Media, Kit Cabello, someone I call a good friend of mine. Please check him out. He is Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Central, and that would be 10 p.m. Eastern. So 9 a.m. Central, he is Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, depending on when you can catch him in a good mood for a Saturday brunch. If he does do Saturday brunch, I usually am sleeping or at work, so... but check him out. He's really good on politics, and I have the pleasure of calling him friend. Some more shameless plugs. If you could also subscribe to Angel in the Afternoon. He does a great job on politics as well. And that's Angel in the Afternoon, and he's usually on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. That is also scheduled to change. If you have any questions about it, he'll usually let you know. And he will definitely, you can direct message him if you need to get a hold of him. The last one is Deconstructing. His name is Dave. I really recommend him too. He has a little podcast on YouTube. All you'd have to look up is Deconstructing Topics, and he does some really good stuff. I really recommend you guys check him out. Subscribe to everybody I just said here, and check them out. And remember, everyone, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody. Hey, Curt Hennig fans, just want to let you know that the ending outro song is AI generated. Again, it is AI generated. Thank you all for listening. And remember, everyone, no one beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody.
He walked into the ring, a legend set to soar. In the flashing lights you could hear the crowd roar. With a twinkle in his eye, a swagger in his stride, Curt Hennig, he was more than a star in their eyes. From the farms of Minnesota to the wrestling hall, he stood undefeated through it all. A father, a friend, a hero we'd see, perfect in the memories for you and me. He was Mr. Perfect, never missing a beat. With every match, he rise to his feet. Though he's gone now, a hero we see, perfect in the memories for you and me. In the quiet of the evening, stars shining bright, you'd hear tales of his glory, longing to the night. With a grip like of ice, and a smile that gleamed, he lived every moment like out of a dream. His days in the sun, and the nights in the cold, stories of Curt never grow old. Remember the laughter, battles hard fought, perfectly missed, but never forgot. He was Mr. Perfect, never missing a beat. With every match, he rise to his feet. Though he's gone now, a hero we see, perfect in memories for you and me. He was Mr. Perfect, never missing a beat. With every match, he rise to his feet. Though he's gone now, his legend